Greetings, friends. Once again, it's an honor to welcome you back to Rick's Garage. Although today is going to be more of a Rick's Farm and Garden edition. What you see before you is a Cub Cadet lawn tractor. It belongs to my neighbor. As you can see, I've already removed the hood, or what our friends across the lake would say, the bonnet. His complaint is that every time the machine gets hot, it shuts down. He lets it sit for a few minutes and then it'll start up again. He seems to think it's an ignition problem. However, I don't think so. The motor on these machines have 2 cylinders. Each has its own individual coil. It's unlikely that both of them are going to fail at exactly the same time. And if one were to fail, the engine can run with 1 cylinder. So I think it's a fuel delivery problem. That's what we're going to look at today. Now, if you research this problem online, you may have heard about the gas cap vent. Sometimes the gas cap vent will get clogged up. Vacuum will build up in the tank and it will not allow the fuel to flow. So to confirm that that's not the problem, I loosened up the gas cap, took it for a test run, and sure enough, after about 6 or 7 minutes, the engine shut down. So that was not the problem. The next thing I did after I got the engine running again is I removed the air filter, and as the engine started to die, I gave it a shot of starting ether right in the carburetor, and the engine perked right up again. So that confirms to me it is a fuel problem. For some reason, the carburetor is not getting enough fuel to keep the engine running. And now what I've done is I pulled the fuel filter. So now there should be fuel flowing out of this hose, and I've got it pinched off so I don't make a mess. So I'm going to release the pinch and see if we get any fuel flowing out of here. You can see it's just a drop at a time, not nearly enough to keep this engine running. I'm going to repinch this off. Okay, next, as you can see, friends, I've gone ahead and hooked an air line up to that hose. I'm going to blow some air back into the tank and see if that improves matters. I'm using less than 30 psi. I've removed the gas cap. If you don't remove the gas cap, you're not going to be able to get any pressure in there. And we're going to give this a try and see if we can improve the flow of fuel. So I'm going to release my little pinch tool. And I'm just going to give it a quick couple of little bursts here. I'm going to pull my air hose back and let's see what happens here. Oh wow, look at the fuel pour out of there. That indeed was the problem. Now I better pinch this off quickly. Okay, let's get that fuel out of there. So that was quite an improvement. Gas is gushing out of there now. So obviously there's some problem inside the tank, so we're going to have a look at that. I don't think you can see this, friends. Maybe you can, but there's a bunch of debris floating around in that tank. And I used the compressed air again, and it started flowing really, really well. Then all of a sudden it started slowing down a little bit, and I looked and there was a big black piece of debris covering the outlet at the bottom of the tank. So this tank has got to be removed and completely cleaned. Okay, friends, I've moved the machine outside. I got to try to siphon as much of this gas out as possible, and I don't want to load up the garage with fumes. This siphoning kit you can buy at most any hardware store. I think I got this one at the Tractor Supply store. I think Lowe's and Home Depot sell them. So I'll come back after I get all this gas siphoned out. Friends, once I got all the gas siphoned out of the tank, as much as possible anyway, I brought the machine back in the shop. Now I see absolutely no alternative than to remove this tank, shake it up, and dump out the contaminants. I went online. There's a couple of guys with different ideas on how to get the stuff out of there. One guy had some ridiculous idea of putting sticky tape on the end of a rod and trying to get the pieces of contaminate out that way. The only way I can see to do it is remove the tank, as I just said. Now the other thing is, there are no instructions whatsoever that I could find online on how to remove this tank. Actually, that's pretty good, because it's getting harder and harder to find things on YouTube that haven't already been covered. So we'll be the only ones with the instructions on how to remove this tank. All right, I'm gonna pull this gas cap out. Obviously, we're gonna have to have the gas cap off to raise the cover. I'm gonna pull the oil dipstick out of the way. I don't know if that'll be in the way or not, but I'm pulling that. Friends, what I've gone ahead and done is raise the tractor with my lift. I'm going to remove the fuel line here from the bottom of the tank, and I'm going to replace it with this little plug so we don't have fuel spilling all over the place when we're trying to get this tank out. Now there's two reasons I raised the machine. One is I'm an old man and I don't like getting down on my knees. And number two, by putting the machine on an angle, what little gas is left in the tank will not be hitting the outlet. So it'll prevent us from losing any gas all over the place, and like I said, I won't have to get down on my knees. So I'll come back when I get that done. Alright, I've got the bottom of that tank plugged off. As I expected, I didn't lose any fuel. So now I'm going to remove this little vent hose. Came off easy enough. Alright, next I'm going to take a small screwdriver. I'm going to carefully try to pry the center cap of the steering wheel off. I think it's coming off quite easily. Okay. I don't think you can see this, but down inside here there's a bolt that has to be undone. It looks like a 1/2 inch. A lot of these Cub Cadet, this is a 2018 model year, they still use standard tools. They haven't gone to metric yet. So I'm going to take a 1/2 inch and see if it fits it. And it appears that it does. Alright, so let's put this on loosen. Okay, got that bolt undone. Now hopefully we can pop this steering wheel off without too much trouble. Yep, came right out. Okay, very good. So now I've got to get this little top cover to slide off. And I can see in there that there are two little clips that have to be pushed in to get this to slide off. There it is. All right. And it comes straight up. Okay, hopefully I didn't break anything, and I did not. All right, so the two little clips I was talking about is these have to be pushed in so you can unclip it. And this is off. Okay. Now we have a 5/16 or 8 millimeter. They're both almost exactly the same size. Has to be removed. Okay, that's out. And off camera, I'll do the one on the other side. Now, friends, there are two similar bolts, both 5/16 or 8 millimeter, whichever you choose to use. They're in the area where your legs would be as you drive the tractor. We're going to get those two out of there. Okay, there's one, and I'll get the other one off camera. Okay, with all four of those bolts off, it appears the only thing that's preventing this console from lifting up is this bracket right here that kind of supports the steering column. Okay, friends, you can't see in there, but there are two more 5/16 bolts that have to be removed to get this bracket out. grab a little magnet to get them out of there. So I'm going to put a little bit of WD-40 there so that it'll help this slide over that steering shaft. Alright, let's see if this bracket will come up. Very good. Okay friends, now that we've got this steering box support out of the way, we should be able to get this thing up enough so we can get the tank out. Now, one of the problems you're going to have is the ignition switch. The wire that goes to the ignition switch is not very long, so if you try to force it too much this way, you're going to inadvertently unplug that switch. I found that out the hard way. So we've got to try to shoehorn this out without moving this too far that way. So I'm going to unclip this thing. And the whole problem is that we got to lift it enough to get the filler neck out. So I'm going to try to kind of lift this end up as much as I can. And try to lift that up enough so I can get that filler neck out without unplugging this switch. They don't make it easy for us. Here we go. Alright, now that came out. Now let's see if I unplugged my switch. Nope, my switch is still plugged in. So great, we got the tank out. Now we can go ahead and clean it. I've got this gas can where I keep old gas. I use that for when burning season comes around to get my fire started. So any gas that we get out of there that's contaminated is going to go in here. Okay friends, we've got this tank nice and clean now. So we're going to try to pop it back in. It might have been helpful if I had removed this engine cover. When I was taking it out, once I was able to clear this lip of the engine cover, I was able to get it out. So we're going to try to shoehorn it back in without pulling that ignition switch. You can't access the ignition switch very well with the tank in place. So let's see how this goes. We're going to try to shoehorn this back in. I've got it almost in the hole for the filler neck. Alright, I'm going to go over the other side. Okay, that's acting like it wants to go in. So I'm going to try to pull this up a little bit more. Okay, it seems to be sliding into place. There we go, it's in. So now, just pull this back down where it goes. And let's check that ignition switch, make sure that's in place. Yep, that's still there. And let's clip this in right here. So it looks like it's pretty much installed. That's in place. This is all where it's supposed to be. This is where it's supposed to be. This is clipped in. Alright, so the tank is back in, and so we're ready to start putting this together. So the first thing we're going to do is put our steering rod support back in, and I believe that goes like that. Get that down. Alright, that's in position. Let's get the bolts and bolt that back in. Alright folks, I'm going to try to get these screws back in. Now these screws are recessed in there. And it's difficult to get your fingers in there. So what I've done here is I put a piece of tape on the end of this socket to hold the screw in place so I can get it started. And that seems to be working out quite nicely. That screw's going in. Now I'm going to get the other screw, do exactly the same thing. Okay. Now that they're started, I'm going to zip them in with my battery ratchet. You never want to start them with the battery ratchet because you might, cross-thread them. Okay, that's in. Great. All right, now I'm going to get the rest of it in before I put the top piece on. So right now I'm going to throw in those 4 screws that we removed. Okay friends, we're ready to try to put this top piece back on. So let's see if we can get this into that. There we go, that's into that. So now all we have to do is kind of snap these 2 clips in like that, and that's installed. Okay, very good. Now we're ready to reinstall the steering wheel. The wheels are pretty much facing straight ahead, so I'm going to put this on as if it's going straight ahead. There we go. And now we're going to tighten up that center nut. I'm going to try to get it going by hand first. As I said before, you don't like to power things on directly because then you can... Okay. Alright, that's on there pretty tight. So the steering wheel is on. Now we're going to put the steering wheel centerpiece in. That went in easy enough. Alright, so that's done. Okay friends, for the most part, this tank has been reinstalled. It's where it belongs. It's clipped in. So all we need to do now is hook up the fuel lines, like this here I'll do right now. This is the vent line. That's hooked up. And I got to hook up the fuel lines to the carburetor. And I've got to hook up the fuel line to the fuel pump from the tank. Put the gas filter back in. And then drop the hood on, or as my friends across the lake would say, bonnet. And this thing's ready to go. So I'll do all that stuff off camera. You don't need to see me putting on the fuel lines. That's fairly simple. So we'll call this video done. It was a success. So friends, I want to thank you once again for watching Rick's Garage. I hope you found this video helpful. Before I go, I will post 2 videos to your left, of which I hope you find of interest. And to your right, as always, will be a picture of my trusty German Shepherd, my avatar. By all means, feel free to click on that should you wish to subscribe to my channel. So thanks again for watching. We hope to see you all very, very soon.